I can use multiplication to generate equivalent fractions. In this lesson, we're going to continue to talk about equivalent fractions. Let's look at today's essential question. How can you use multiplication to find equivalent fractions? So let's review. What are equivalent fractions? Pause this video and turn and talk to your partner. So what are equivalent fractions? Equivalent fractions are fractions that name the same amount. What model can you use to show a fraction that is equivalent to a given fraction? Pause this video and turn and talk to your partner. Well, you could always use your fraction strips or your fraction circles, right? And how many fractions are equivalent to a given fraction? Well, we don't really know, right? There isn't a specific number. It depends on the given fraction. So sometimes there could be 10 equivalent fractions, whereas sometimes there just might be one. Now let's go ahead and look at this following problem. Sarah needs 3/4 cup of dish soap to make homemade bubble solution. Her measuring cup is divided into eighths. What fraction of the measuring cup should Sarah fill with dish soap? So of course, first things first, let's identify where the question portion of the problem is. There's that question mark. There's the beginning of the sentence. So there is our question. So, what fraction of the measuring cup should Sarah fill with the dish soap? So we're talking about solving just the fraction that's going to be filled up with just dish soap. So let's identify the important information given to us in the word problem. Let's reread. Sarah needs 3/4 cup of dish soap to make homemade bubble solution. So that is definitely important. She needs 3/4 cup of dish soap to make that homemade bubble solution. So she's making those bubbles that you basically blow, those fun things, right? Let's continue reading. Her measuring cup is divided into eighths. That is definitely important information as well. Her measuring cup is divided into eighths. And what fraction of the measuring cup should Sarah fill with the dish soap? So, let's find out how many eighths are in 3/4. So that's what we're talking about, right? She needs 3/4 cup of dish soap, but her cup is divided into eighths. And we need to use the eighth size parts because, again, her measuring cup is divided into eighths. So, step 1 is to compare fourths and eighths. So let's use a model. And remember, we're going to be using the same size model. Otherwise, our information will be incorrect. So, first let's start with dividing this into fourths so we know what 3/4 looks like. So let's go ahead and divide this into fourths. Okay. So now, these are divided into fourths. As you can see, this is 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. And we could go ahead and shade in 1/4. So that's 1/4 right there. Now let's go ahead and divide this model here into eighths since her measuring cup is divided into eighths. So we have half there, and then now we have fourths. And let's divide it each piece into half again to get eighths. Okay. So let's see. How many eighths do we need to be equal to 1/4? Where we're looking here, right? So you could see that it takes 2/8 to make 1/4. So it would be something like that. So we need 2 parts to make 1/4. So if one part is 1/8, 2 parts would be 1/8 and 2/8. Therefore, you need 2 8-size parts to make 1 4th-size part, as we can see here. Now step 2, let's find out how many 8ths we need to make 3/4, since again, she needs 3/4. If we're using this cup, let's see what we need. So let's go ahead and shade in what 3/4 would look like. So we know this is 1/4, so 2/4 and 3/4. So 3/4 is all the way up here. Now let's shade 3/4 using the 8-size model. So we could do it one of 2 ways. We could basically see that if we follow that 3/4 line, it would be around here. It might not be accurate depending on your drawing, but we know now that we need 2 8-size parts to make 1/4. So that might be the more accurate way of figuring that out. So if we have over here 2 8ths is 1/4, then we do another 2 for 2/4, right? And it does match up with our model pretty much. And then let's shade in another 2 parts of the 8ths to make it into 3/4. So you could see here that we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 8-size parts to make 3 4th-size parts. So you need 6 8-size parts to make 3 4th-size parts. So then what does Sarah have to do? She needs to fill up 6/8 of the measuring cup with dish soap. So now we know that 6 8-size parts is the same amount as 3 4th-size parts. But I want you to explain this to your partner. Explain why 6 8-size parts is the same amount as 3 4th-size parts. Pause this video until you're ready. Okay, so remember there are 2 8-size parts in each 4th-size part. So 3 times 2 equals 6, right? If we're talking about the numerator. 3 times 2 would make that 6. So let's talk more about equivalent fractions. Let's talk about fractions which are equivalent to 1/2. Okay, so here we have a circle which is divided into half. So let's write down that fraction. So we have 1/2. Now let's go ahead and divide that into fourths and find an equivalent fraction for fourths. So there's that circle again that's divided into half. We divide into fourths. And how many fourths do we have? Well, we have a total of 4, obviously. So the denominator is 4, but the shaded part is 2/4 out of the 4/4. So 1/2 is equivalent to 2/4. So basically, we have that 1/2. What we did was, now we have 2 pieces. We divided it into 2 pieces, which means now it's double. 2 is double 1. So that basically means that the numerator is doubled as well as the denominator. And that would give us 1 times 2 equals 2, and 2 times 2 equals 4. So why do we multiply both the numerator and the denominator by 2? Well, because the whole for 2/4 is divided into 2 times as many parts as the whole for 1/2. So the numerator and denominator are each 2 times as many. Let's look at another equivalent fraction for 1/2. So there we have that 1/2 model again. Now let's find the equivalent fraction in which the denominator would be 6. So we're going to go ahead and take this circle, the same size circle, same size model, and we're going to divide it into 6 equal pieces. So it would look something like this and like this. So now you can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equal pieces. So let's see. 1/2 is equivalent to how many parts are shaded there? 3, right? And the total is 6. So therefore, 1/2 is equivalent to 3/6. And we can see it as, well, here's our 1. The numerator would be 1 if we're looking at the 1/2 right here. And then we divide it into 3 pieces. So this is 3 times as many pieces as that part. So that's 1 times 3, which would give us 3. And we're looking at now the denominator. So there's only 2 parts here. And then when we divided it into these 6 equal pieces here, we had to multiply that also by 3 because that 6 is 3 times as many as 2. So you can see again that we did multiply both the denominator and the numerator by 3. Now, let's find more equivalent fractions for 1/2. There's our 1/2 model again and again. So let's say that we wanted to find a fraction 1/2 equivalent to a fraction where 8 is in the denominator. How would we figure that out? Well, using the same size models, let's go ahead and divide one of these circles into 8 equal pieces. So we start off as 4, then split that again into half. Now we have 8 equal pieces, and we can see that there are 4 out of the 8 total pieces that are shaded in. Therefore, 1/2 is equivalent to 4/8. Looking again, we could see that there are 4 shaded pieces, so it is 4 times as many as the numerator and as the denominator. So we would go ahead and multiply this by 4, since it is 4 times as many, and 1 times 4 equals 4, and 2 times 4 equals 8. So 1/2 is equivalent to 4/8. And let's look at one more model. There's our 1/2 model, and there it is again. So let's say we wanted to find which fraction is equivalent to 1/2, and we're given a model of the same size, which is now divided into tenths. What would be the equivalent fraction? Well, you can clearly see that there are 5 pieces that are shaded here. So the numerator would be 5. It is divided into 10 equal parts, so the denominator would be 10. Looking at it in this perspective, where the shaded part is 5 times as many pieces as this 1/2, we would simply multiply it by 5 since it is 5 times as many. And 1 times 5 equals 5, and 2 times 5 equals 10. So we can say that 1/2 is equivalent to 2/4, is equivalent to 3/6, is equivalent to 4/8, and is equivalent to 5/10. So let's look back at our essential question of this lesson. How can you use multiplication to find equivalent fractions? Pause this video and turn and talk to your partner. In this lesson, you learn how to use multiplication to generate equivalent fractions.